So the story kind of starts back in the 1800s, right, with the discovery of all those radioactive materials.
Yeah, way back then.
And I mean, one name just jumps out right away.
Oh, yeah.
Marie Curie.
Absolutely. Marie Curie, I mean, she was such a pioneer.
Oh, totally.
The document we're looking at really emphasizes her work in 1898.
Okay.
This was groundbreaking stuff, really.
Yeah.
She figured out ways to separate different chemical substances,
Yeah.
and through this like really meticulous process of separating them over and over again,
Oh, wow.
and testing each little bit for its radioactivity.
So detailed.
She found two new elements:
Wow.
radium and polonium.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was a huge moment for science, and it really laid the groundwork for everything that came after.
Yeah, like setting the stage for the whole field.
Right.
It's amazing to think about, like that level of meticulous work in the lab.
Yeah, just incredible dedication.
So, okay, we move forward in time a bit, and we run into this guy, Ernest Lawrence.
Another big name.
Yeah, and what did he bring to the table?
So Lawrence, he invented something called the cyclotron.
The cyclotron. Okay.
Yeah, and to put it simply, it's like a particle accelerator.
So it speeds stuff up.
It uses these electromagnetic fields, and it can get charged particles moving super fast.
I mean, we're talking like serious kinetic energy here.
Oh yeah, you better believe it.
So how does this thing, a cyclotron, end up helping us fight cancer?
That's the cool part. This is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
These super fast particles, the ones that the cyclotron whips up,
Yeah.
they can be used to make something called radioisotopes,
Radioisotopes.
right, which are also known as radiopharmaceuticals.
I've heard that term.
And these things, they're crucial for both medical imaging and treatment,
Oh, okay.
especially when it comes to cancer. And it's funny, the document actually pointed out that cyclotron kind of paved the way for technologies like MRI PET and CT scans,
Wow.
because it showed how to create these strong magnetic energies, but in a really small space.
So it's like the engine behind all this.
Exactly. It's like the foundation for a lot of modern medical imaging.
So we've got this cyclotron pumping out these radiopharmaceuticals, and those are basically the main weapons in our nuclear arsenal against cancer, right?
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, radiopharmaceuticals and radiation therapy are the two big ones.
Okay.
And the source highlights some really important advantages of these treatments.
Like what?
Well, for one, a lot of them are non-invasive.
Which means?
It means you don't need major surgery. You can take them orally
Oh, okay.
or through an injection.
That's a huge plus.
Yeah, much easier on the patient. And what's even more impressive is how successful they can be for certain cancers,
Really?
like thyroid cancer and localized tumors,
Mm.
because they use this ionizing radiation,
Okay.
which is basically radiation that's strong enough to knock electrons off of atoms,
Okay.
and that can damage or even destroy cancer cells directly.
So it's like a targeted attack.
Exactly, it's like a sniper bullet going right for the cancer cells.
Wow.
And in these specific cases, thyroid cancer and such,
Yeah.
the prognosis can be really good.
That's incredible.
Yeah, there's one example they talk about radioactive iodine-131 therapy
Okay.
that has seriously improved outcomes for so many people with thyroid cancer.
So it's like a game changer.
Yeah, it really is.
But the document is also pretty upfront about the potential downsides,
Oh,
right?
you can't ignore those.
Like, what are we talking about?
Well, exposure to radiation isn't a joke.
Yeah.
It can damage healthy cells too,
Uh-huh.
and that can lead to genetic mutation
That's not good.
and increase the risk of other cancers developing later on.
Like secondary cancers.
Right, and in very extreme cases,
Yeah.
it can even be fatal.
Wow. So it's really a balancing act.
It is. You have to weigh the risks and the benefits really carefully for each patient,
Yeah, done.
and that's something doctors are always doing,
Of course.
trying to figure out the best course of action.
Okay, so this whole nuclear chemistry thing for treating cancer, it's not exactly brand new, right?
Nope, it's been around for a while.
The source mentions that it started being used way back in the mid-1900s.
Yeah, they were pioneers back then.
So what's the overall picture like, both historically and today? How do people view this kind of treatment?
Well, the source makes a really interesting point.
Okay.
It says that even though the risks are there,
Right.
and they're serious risks,
Yeah.
the benefits for tons of patients every year are just undeniable.
So it's like a powerful tool, but you got to use it carefully.
Exactly like a surgeon's scalpel. It can save lives, but it can also do harm if it's not used properly.
That's a good analogy.
So their conclusion is that nuclear chemistry should absolutely still be used in medicine
Okay.
because it's more likely to help people than hurt them.
I mean, that makes sense.
And right now, for certain cancers, it's considered the safest and most effective way to both diagnose and treat.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a powerful tool with a lot of potential. And it's constantly evolving as scientists learn more.
Okay, so to wrap things up for you, we've seen how those big discoveries back in the late 1800s,
Yeah.
with folks like Curie and all that work with radioactive elements,
Right.
combined with later innovations like Lawrence's cyclotron.
Yeah, those were game changers.
They've given us some incredibly powerful tools in medicine.
For sure.
But it's a field where, the potential for healing, it's always going to be tied to these serious risks.
Absolutely.
So it's like this ongoing balancing act.
And that's where the ethical questions come in.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely makes you think.
I think it raises a big question, actually.
What's that?
Like, with all the advancements happening both in nuclear science and in other cancer treatments,
Yeah.
what ethical and practical challenges might we face in the future?
Mm,
When we're trying to figure out the best way to take care of patients.
yeah, that's a great question.
A lot to think about there.
Definitely food for thought.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening.
It's been a pleasure.